Hello and welcome to Euro Football Daily, and today we're joined by BT's Gary Lineker. Thank you for coming, Gary.
Pleasure. Thank you for coming.
Oh, well, you're welcome.
I live here.
Yeah, we're going to jump straight in with some questions about this year's Champions League. Who do you see winning it?
Oh, blimey. Do you know, I think it's quite open this year, a bit more open than recent years. You know, Barcelona have been a little bit more inconsistent. Real Madrid going quite well, but you know, sure exactly how strong they are. You've got Bayern Munich, are always forced to be reckoned with. Dortmund, good sides right the way through. Manchester City are, you've got good sides, and also you've got the Spanish who tend to win everything these days, and who also have Atletico Madrid and Sevilla, and Sevilla's really strong side. They're going really well in La Liga, so it's a tough one. If my bias would push me towards Barcelona. I also hope the English teams do well. I just think we're still a year or two away from being super competitive in the Champions League again. I think our teams are growing, big managers are coming, bigger players are coming. It's only a matter of time before we're strong again. But I think Barcelona. Messi's playing beautifully at the moment.
It's always a fair bet, Barcelona. I was wondering if there's a team which kind of exemplifies the kind of football you like to watch. It could be a current team or a team from the past.
I love watching Barcelona. I mean, I just love watching Messi. And that front three are great, and I think he's just joyous to watch. So I would pluck them at the moment.
It's hard to argue with that. Did you prefer him in Pep's system or in this more kind of direct Luis Enrique?
I just think he's a phenomenal talent. He'll perform in any kind of system that you want him to perform in, and he's playing brilliantly at the moment. I mean, we all thought maybe he's coming towards the last. Well, he will at some point, but he's 2017 he's been superb.
Yeah, he's got an astronomical peak. I think it's 31 goals in his last 30 games.
His whole figure,
just stupid numbers.
Him and Ronaldo just score for fun, but
yeah,
the difference between them for me, I think Ronaldo's a phenomenal footballer, and we're blessed to have lived in the era of both. But Messi brings joy. Messi, every time you play, he just takes your breath away. Something that he does, some magical skill, and that's the difference.
You've obviously made reference to the fact that you played at Barcelona, and you, of course, spent a couple of years in Japan as well. How did that time change you as a player, as a person? What did it bring to you? Both of them?
Both of them. Well, I think Barcelona changed me as a player. Japan didn't, because I kind of had it by then. But Barcelona was different. They played deep. There was a lot of man-to-man in those days. You had to learn different ways of finding space, dealing with the pressure of playing for a club as big and as bonkers as Barca. And those kind of things, and living abroad, learning a language, all those kind of things off the field as well, which was great fun. Beautiful place to live. Yeah. Japan was different, because I kind of didn't just go there to play football, thankfully, because I didn't play much because I got injured. But I kind of went there as kind of to promote football in that country. It was the first time they'd had a professional league, so there's more work off the field than perhaps on the field, because I got quite badly injured and had to finish in the end. But it was a great 2 years, and fascinating place. Very, very different, but they looked after us really well, and it was an interesting couple of years. You made more of an effort than a lot of players do, by going and learning the language in Spain. Do you think that some players don't take advantage of those opportunities? Do you think more British players should go abroad? I think it would help them. I think the thing is, in those days, you've got to remember that in the 80s, there were quite a lot of British players went abroad, whether it be Italy or Spain. And one of the reasons for that was that in those days the wages were quite small in England compared with abroad. So you go to a big club, they pay you 3-4 times what you're on here. So that was obviously quite appealing for, but personally it was more about the chance to play for one of the great clubs of the world, learn lots of things. Money was a bonus, obviously, but some players perhaps went purely for the money, thought, I'll stomach it for a couple of years and then come back. And if you go with that attitude, you're not going to do that well. But I looked at it before I went, and I thought the ones that were successful, the ones that had done well, were the ones that had kind of thrown themselves into the culture, thrown themselves into the language, and tried to adapt off the field quickly. And because of that, you're happier. And if you're happy, you perform better. And it kind of worked for me for a couple of years.
Well, I think sometimes we're quite tough on footballers, because obviously they're young men kind of thrown into this situation where everything's kind of given, and it's hard to...
Yeah, I mean, the thing all footballers always get, but they earn this and they earn that and they earn this, but some people might find this hard to believe, but footballers don't go into football for the money. If they do, they ain't going to get anywhere. because you need to be in love with the game. You need to be passionate. You need to work your socks off. And it's unbelievably competitive. So many, a lot of people want to be footballers. So it's difficult. The money just comes with it. But what the important thing is the drive to succeed, and you want to be the best. You're not telling me the great players in the world. The Messi thinks about the money when he's playing football. Of course he doesn't. He thinks about winning matches. He thinks about beating people and scoring wonderful goals and the ovation from the crowd. That's what it's all about. The joy of winning. The money's a secondary thing. And I still believe that to this day, that's the case.
Well, you've said before that you weren't maybe the best player, but you were the best goal scorer for a period. So I mean, what are you proudest of then? Is it the fact that you became the best kind of Gary Lineker style striker you could be? Or I
think the important thing for me was getting the best out of the ability I had, and I think I kind of did that. I was mentally very strong. I was very calm under pressure. They were my great strengths. Technically, average. It was all right, but I could finish. No, well, it's easy to be harsh on yourself, but it's true. I couldn't beat a drum. I couldn't. I'd never be able to dribble past anyone. Saved my life, albeit knock it and run because I was quick.
Sure.
So I didn't have any silky skills, but I could give it and get in the box, and I knew how to find space in the box. So it was all, I gambled and it kind of paid off. So I think I got the best out of my ability, and that ultimately is all you can do.
Yeah. Well, what qualities do you think are underrated in footballers? Often we talk about
just on the footballer, doesn't it? Because
yeah,
everyone's got kind of different abilities. So I think the interesting thing you talk about footballers in general. There's always been this kind of assumption that footballers are a bit thick.
Right.
Not true. You cannot be a really top footballer and be thick. Mm-hmm. You might be not particularly educated, you might not have read a load of books, but you've got a different kind of appreciation of things.
Spatial intelligence.
A spatial awareness and a spatial intelligence, and seeing things ahead, and knowing whether someone's over there or not. And then it's different. It's a skill, it's a different kind of thing, but it is an intelligence. And you can't get to the very top by being like a dope.
Who do you think
you can behave like a dope?
Yeah, well, sure.
I've seen a few of those.
But you can do that at any level.
Yeah.
Who do you think is the world's most underrated player? Is there somebody who you think doesn't?
Yeah, but if you think he's the world's most underrated player, is he underrated?
Well, by everybody else potentially, but not by you.
Well, I say even now he's only just getting the recognition that he deserves as Kante.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, people are starting. I've been saying for a long time he was the reason Leicester won the league. I said to a lot of friends I shouldn't change my mind, but. I said wherever he goes, if he goes to one of the big six, they'll win the league next season. He's just an unbelievable player. Yeah. I mean, he's not one of those players. He's not Messi, or he's not. But in terms of box to box, he's as good as there is in the game anywhere in the world, because he wins it to the high, he wins it up high on the pitch, which is important. That's where the majority of goals. He plays between the lines. He hardly ever gives it away. He's everywhere. He's made more tackles in a season and a half than anyone has in 3 seasons. He's made more interceptions than anyone else, and that's what it's about now: winning the ball in high positions and breaking. So if there's anyone underrated, and I think people are starting to get it.
Yeah, definitely.
And there's no coincidence that Leicester are where they are now and Chelsea are where they are now. He's a massively important factor in,
he's definitely got
positions.
That strategic intelligence you were talking about, hasn't he?
He's phenomenal. France underestimated him in the summer. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, that's definitely.
It was a shocking decision to put him in the team.
Well, he also makes things easy for the players he kind of plays with. So I was wondering if you had somebody who was the best player for you to play with. Maybe not the most gifted player.
In my time, I would go Beardsley.
Yeah.
I mean, because when I played with him, he was. We just gelled. I mean, and there were reasons for that. One, he was a phenomenal footballer. He was also massively intelligent. He had that little trick that should be called the Beardsley, but then no one else has ever done it, where he flicked his leg up and did that thing that I can't even comprehend how he did it. And the other thing about it, which I like the most, being a box player, he didn't like going in the box. He didn't.
That's perfect.
People think, oh, you need to get bodies. I hear it all the time. There are not enough bodies in the box. As a striker, I wanted to be the only body in the box, because what you've got to try and find in the box is space.
Yeah.
And every time people say they didn't get enough bodies in the box, I think. And then you gamble on where it's going to go. So you gamble on space, but if you've got 2 or 3 people extra in the box, that even your players, they're in the way.
Yeah.
And they make runs that they don't really know what they're doing, and they fill spaces up that you want to go in. So actually, the more space you want in the box, the better, as long as you've got someone that knows what he's doing in the box. Otherwise, you probably need more bodies in the box.
Has it ever appealed to you to try and coach people?
No.
Because obviously the media kind of works for you,
Yeah.
you're very good at it, but like, did it ever appeal to you to kind of think, well, I can actually have this wisdom to kind of impart to people?
Yeah, I only really know about strikers, and I don't, the rest of it. I used to listen to Hansen about the defender and think, oh yeah, I didn't realise that. So no, I don't think I could have been an all-round kind of coach. It never appealed to me either. I never really liked training, let alone standing there watching people train in the cold. So it never appealed.
Okay.
No.
Is there anything else you want to achieve with your career? I mean, are there things that you still have left to do, plans that you have in mind?
Well, only really in terms. I mean, obviously, I've moved into television. I've set up our own production company with my partner Tony the last couple of years. Goldhanger Films, and we're making a lot of stuff, and that's getting. I just want to kind of build that business. I find it interesting. Something I've never had a business really. So it's been fun to do that and see the progress we're making and make nice films and things you're proud of. So probably just keep that going as well as the Saturday job.
Yeah, well.
And the Tuesday and Wednesday job next week.
The other thing is that you've kind of engaged with political issues on your Twitter.
Yeah, what a fool.
Well, yeah, I mean, it does seem like a fool's errand, but on the other hand, do you feel like you have a responsibility to do that? Do you think footballers have responsibilities?
No, I don't think that anyone has a responsibility. I think it's perfectly within, it's up to the individual concerned. In my case, I've generally steered clear of it for a long time. I've always been interested in politics. I follow it very closely, but I've always kind of kept my thoughts to myself, which was probably more sagacious. But then I kind of, sometimes you feel strongly about something, and because Twitter's now there, you thought, well, I'll just share my thoughts, and then it's kind of escalated a little bit. And then people will disagree with your thoughts, fair, but no problem at all. But then they kind of get a bit personal, which is unnecessary. Yeah. And I think the way we are at the moment, not just here, but kind of like around the world, is there's no kind of middle ground. It's either you're massively that way or massively that way. People will attack you either way, and it's a bit divisive and it's a bit scary. So basically all I've kind of tweeted about really is just the odd concern, a bit of empathy for people that have had to flee their country and run thousands of miles and die on boats and things like that, and have to live in tents in the freezing cold somewhere where no one will let them in their countries. I can't see why anyone wouldn't actually sympathise with people like that. Imagine if it was here, we were all being bombed now and we had to go running and we had no home and we had to leave our families and flee. Bit of empathy, maybe. Yeah, maybe. So whilst I find it difficult to understand why people would disagree with that. Yeah. It is their right to disagree with that. But the only thing I don't actually agree with is why would you then kind of go and attack someone for having that particular view? Yeah. There's no need for that.
Well, I think you're on the right side of history there.
I hope so. I think so. But other people would disagree, and that is their prerogative.
Oh, whatever. We're not interviewing them, so it's not a problem.
Make it a good closing line.
Yeah,
it's very important.
Let me think of something intelligent to say. Thank you very much, Gary, for joining us today. And make sure you check out all of the Champions League action on BT Sport, exclusively to be found there. Thanks for watching.